Hello and welcome back to the Public Eye Business Podcast, brought to you by Granite Exchange. I'm your host, as always, Sarah Travers, and throughout this series I'll be speaking with local entrepreneurs and business owners to learn more about how their companies have come to be, to gain insight into their growth and find out, crucially, how they continue to innovate. So wherever you get your podcasts from, remember to keep an eye out for all new episodes and subscribe to stay up to date. Well, today I am joined by Karen Yates, founder of Taylor Yates. Karen, you are very welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
As always, before we begin, a little bit of background, first of all, on Karen and her business. So if you don't know, Karen and Ellen Yates are a mother and daughter team who are designing sustainable luxury leather handbags that are handmade using British leather in the UK. Now, before starting working with the brand, Ellen was a student in Manchester studying fashion, business and management and graduated last year during lockdown, while mum Karen runs a marketing consultancy alongside Taylor Yates. So the idea for the brand started with Karen being asked to do a guest lecture on ethics in marketing, and around the same time wanting to get Ellen a handbag for her 18th birthday. Not being able to find anything that felt like real soft leather, that was understated and modern looking, guess what? They decided to design their own collection. Karen, it's quite a journey, and I have to admit that I've known you for many, many years, and you've always been an entrepreneur, really. Even when you were working for other companies, you were actually always innovating, always doing something different. But let's just start at the beginning, because you grew up in England.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
So I'm originally from Warrington, which is near Manchester, I suppose is what I usually say, but probably the place that most people pass on the M6, really, is sort of the way I think of it. Great place to grow up, really good people, but I left there 18, went to what was Polly back in the day, found myself in London working for Jaeger, which was amazing.
Oh.
And House of Fraser and John Lewis for a while. Really, really amazing year. But then... and
what did you study to get to that kind of job?
It was business studies and marketing.
Right.
I decided to do marketing back in the day because the choice was accountancy, marketing, or what was called personnel then. And it was the one that just sparked my interest. And then I applied for a job in what was like a student newspaper for a company called Desmond's. They were literally 10 miles away from my home. It was advertised, but actually they were based in Drummerhoe, just outside Derry.
Yeah.
And through a series of sort of short interviews, one of which I remember, the production director was asking me about my year in London, and I was telling him what had happened and how we had actually had to reduce the wholesale side of the business. And he said, so it's fair to say by the end of the year, you could have been running the business. And
fair to say, yes.
And I was sort of like, oversell, and didn't know whether. Anyway, got the job.
Did you say yes?
I did say yes. I did say yes. And then I got the job, but I was like 23, 24. And it was my first job really out of uni, but I literally arrived on the Monday and was told, next Monday you're flying to Northern Ireland. So
had you ever been before?
No idea. I mean, it's a long time ago now, it was 1988. So I started in September 88 over in Drummerhoe.
So difficult times to be visiting Northern Ireland?
I suppose so, but ironically, not something that, lots of things were obviously happening. I described it at the time as a little bit like having your local news on the national news. Yeah. Because we had issues in Manchester, issues in Liverpool. It was very different. I do get that, but everybody was very kind. So that was the start of me being here.
Right. So what happened next then?
I 2 years flying back and to London every week, growing my own department Desmond's supplied Marks and Spencer's with clothing.
That's right.
And 1990, one of those sort of moments where my sales director, a fab guy called Ronnie Simpson, said, "What are you going to do the rest of your life, kid?"
Oh.
And I was like, make me an offer, sort of. And he said, move to Northern Ireland. So I moved, literally moved over in February 1990. I told my mum I was coming for 2 years. And then I went on skiing holiday the following year, and I was living in Portstewart, met the guy who's now my husband, Russell Yates, and 4.5 years later we were married. And then, you know, fast forward, I've now got 3 kids, 2 through uni. We've built his design and print business, and we now have a startup. So
you never came home again?
Never went back home quite, no.
Not to your...
No.
What did your poor mum think of that?
Well, you know, sadly, Mum and Dad planned to move to Scotland and then decided they were moving to Northern Ireland. Unfortunately, she got very ill and died. Like, she was only 57, so she died in 2000. Met 2 of the kids. But my dad moved here.
That's right.
Then in 2006 after he retired. So he had a good sort of almost 10 years here before then he unfortunately also passed away. But that was great.
And they came to, your dad was able to be here for a while, which was lovely. So let's fast forward a little bit. You've been very busy and you've moved to Northern Ireland, but deep down there was always that burning entrepreneur that knew that you wanted to do something yourself. Yeah,
I suppose it's sort of an interesting one because the more you get asked about it, the more you start to actually maybe consider that. And I didn't realise how much my background had influenced, what I've ended up doing. My nana had 3 businesses. She ran a corner shop from her house. She ran trips to Blackpool, and she also coached trips for people. They came in and bought the tickets, and she did.
Nobody called her an entrepreneur.
No, because it wasn't a thing, was it then?
No.
You know, she was just, she's Alice Wells who ran the corner shop.
Wow.
And so that strength that she had and determination, I think, it's just been something that I've reflected on a lot more in the last while.
So you were involved in Russell's family business at the time very heavily, and you threw yourself into that, but and made a great success of that. But let's talk about the handbags, because they are absolutely beautiful. If you've ever held or lucky enough to own a Taylor Yates handbag, it is the softest leather I have ever felt in my life.
Thank you.
It really is. So, okay, you wanted to get Ellen, your gorgeous daughter, a handbag, and she was working in fashion business and management as well. What were your thoughts? Did you want to work with her? Did she want to work with you? I'm thinking of me and my daughter and whether that would be such a good idea or not.
Yeah, it actually didn't happen that way. She was going to go and do ancient history at university. That was the plan. And she absolutely loved ancient history, classic civilization, and I'd actually started a T-shirt business before Taylor Yates. So from the lecture, I just realised that the world was changing, and I felt like business had always been way back a force for good, and I felt it should be a force for good, and there's lots of businesses that are. But I wanted to build a social good business, so I started with the T-shirts, and that was okay, but wasn't necessarily going in the direction. The handbag idea was because I always wanted to build a brand. I decided I wanted to build a brand, but if you don't have a lot of money, it's hard to go and get lots and lots of clothing made and stock. And the traditional way to do that, you need cash.
Yeah.
So the handbag was partly because I then started to look for something for her birthday. And my background in manufacturing meant that I could see the value or lack of value in other products, and felt that there was space for something that was just really beautiful, really soft, and actually I wanted it to be made out of the same leather that you use for jackets and gloves.
So what did you do then?
I started by going back and talking to some of my sort of connections, and I looked at China first because that's the natural route. I negotiated. We had the minimum order values reduced. We were ready to sort of almost press the button, and I just got cold feet, thought this doesn't make any sense. I tried Italy as well, which again, but we wanted to design from scratch. We didn't want to just take a off-the-shelf design that somebody else in a factory had made. And then another part of my life, I'm part-time chief exec of the Chamber.
In Causeway.
Yeah. And I had met I think it was then the Shadow Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Owen Patterson, remembered that he had some connection with leather in his family, and literally picked up the phone. He phoned me from France and put me in touch.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. That's
I
how it
didn't know
happened.
this at all.
Yeah, it was amazing. He phoned me from France. He was on holiday. His secretary gave him the number, phoned me from France and said, yes, Karen, you need to speak to, and he gave me the name of this guy, and they didn't even have a website. Like, because leather is a bit cloaked in sort of, mystery in terms of where, the some of the organisations. And he put me in touch, and I then got in touch with the factory in Somerset that we're now working with.
Oh my goodness. So how relieved do you feel that you didn't go with China or Italy?
Hugely. I mean,
Right.
it just felt
It was
so
meant
right.
to be.
Oh, 100%.
So, and a quick trip over rather than
Yes.
having to...
Yeah, we went in
head
the
around the world.
January. We went in January 2016, and by that stage, Ellen was, she was doing her A-levels still. She was doing her, but she came with me.
Yeah.
Because she was just interested, I think, at that point. But we went over, and 2016 January, and we launched in November 2016. She, by that stage, had switched her course and went to, in fact, she was on a year out. That's right. She was on a year out. So she switched her course then to business and with fashion and business management.
This podcast is sponsored by Granite Legal Services, a niche business and immigration law practice located in the heart of Newry City. Granite Legal Services provides legal advice to both individuals and companies alike across a wide range of industries, from employment, commercial or corporate law matters to immigration law. Granite Legal Services focuses on providing legally sound, practical advice to its clients. To get in touch, visit www.granitelegalservices.co.uk or contact 028 3026 2200. And you already knew you were going to have the Taylor Yates name. No?
No, that wasn't the first name either.
What was the first name?
It was terrible. We don't like to talk about it.
Okay. Go on, tell us.
It was called Bags of Respect, which was this idea that
reminds me of the bags of fashion that used to be down the promenade years ago.
The idea was that we want to be the Tom's shoes of handbags.
Yeah.
So every bag does some good.
Okay.
And that was where it came from. We now are there in terms of every sale we give £5 to Glow NI, and we plant a tree. So we're sort of where we wanted to be. But yeah, that wasn't the name initially, and that name just didn't really work.
Yeah, but you have to start somewhere, don't you? And it's only then when you're just going, right, we're not quite there. And you've got two great names right there.
100, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it actually came again because of my background, I suppose. My old boss, Dennis Desmond, used to walk in every Friday after we'd all been in London, and after I got married, he would walk in and go, "Well, Mrs. Taylor Yates," and it just that's where the sort of the idea came from, I suppose. My maiden name
Was Taylor.
and my married name.
Married name. Okay, and Ellen's name.
And Ellen's name.
Yes, absolutely. The women in your life also influenced the products.
Yes. So we had created the first collection. We'd actually met with Karen Millen in London and had tea with her. She was fantastic. And her piece of advice was cut. However many products you've got, just cut it. So we slimmed the range down, the collection down to 5. We knew the shapes. We had a tote, we had a hobo, we had a little clutch, but we sort of wanted to give them names. We didn't know what that was going to look like. We looked at what other people were doing. And Ellen and I were driving to Belfast one day, and I said, I know exactly what we're going to do. And she looked at me as if I was crazy as usual, and because I do tend to do that. And I said, Alice after my nana, Mary after her sister, Mavis after my aunt, and then Doris was the hairdresser that was literally her salon. She lived next door to my nana, and she was at the end of the road. And I spent every Saturday morning with these women. Oh. But my mum's name was Norma, and it didn't fit at that point. I didn't feel like, so I was having this real, like, what am I going to do?
Oh, no.
She has to be in there.
It's like naming your babies, but you don't really like the name.
Exactly. It didn't work.
Shame on you.
My sister phoned or messaged one day and went, I know, my dad always called my mum Tilly. We've no idea why, sadly. We never asked the question, so if you ever have to ask a question of anybody, ask it sooner rather than later. But it just fitted. So Alice, Tilly, Mary, Mavis and Doris was the first collection.
Do you ever think you'll have a Norma?
We do now have a Norma. We do now have a Norma because a lot of the designs have come from past handbags or shapes and I have a bag which Norma, my mum, saved up to buy for me in the 90s. So we redesigned it.
Oh, that's
so
lovely,
that's there now as well.
Oh, that's really lovely. So go back a little bit. You've got your core. Did you say 5?
It was the first, yeah.
So the first 5. How did you work on the design for those? Who did you work with? How did you come up with them?
So the factory in Somerset have a design department as well. So we worked with their design team to basically, we tend to work from either a shape or, as I say, an actual product that we've had. And, you know, my sort of archive wasn't very expensive archive, but they were pretty cool shapes. And then they will produce an initial sample, and then we'll go from there.
Mm-hmm.
So
and do you enjoy that whole design side of things?
Yeah, I do really love that. Ellen loves it as well. We've got quite we're very similar in lots of ways, but I think that the two of us together just create something that hopefully has a wide appeal.
Did you have any trepidation at all when you were starting out on this journey?
I don't know whether I allowed myself to have that, you know, any trepidation. I mean, I tended to, quite early on, there were people that I just wouldn't discuss it with because I knew that
Negative.
It was, yeah, but it was a crazy idea. It still is a crazy idea in lots of ways.
You know, it's doing all right though.
We're doing okay,
but it's taken a while, has it, to get going?
Yeah, we're 5.5 years,
right,
sort of in now. And
so at the start, because I mean they are luxury handbags
Absolutely.
as well, so you're going to have to get people to buy before you make money. How much money did you have to get to allow this dream to happen?
Well, up until this year, apart from Invest NI, funding and a competition that Causeway Council ran that we won some money in, it was self-funded. So we started with £10,000.
Right, and that was a lot of pressure then.
Yeah,
okay.
huge. So
when did you feel like, you know what, Ellen, we're getting somewhere. We've made it. We've done something. What happened? Do you remember a eureka moment?
There's been a few that probably jump out. 2017 was awful. I thought I was going to just forget it, give it up. But in February 2018, we got invited to London Fashion Week. Mm-hmm. And that was literally Friday afternoon, voicemail. Is that real? Oh, my goodness.
How does that happen?
We were told at the time, Instagram. They found us on Instagram. So, I think we look bigger than we are. I think we've managed to create a brand.
Yeah, but also you've got the marketing background and Ellen has the marketing background, and you know the power of a powerful image or something that just looks fabulous on Instagram, on Pinterest. That's where you need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think going to Fashion Week and seeing what's happening, it's amazing. It's sort of a trade show in some ways, but we learn loads. That, and then I think Ellen joining, she did her year out from uni then with us because she was supposed to go to House of Fraser, and then they were about to go into their first rounds of potential CVA, and it didn't feel safe and right, and actually we convinced the uni she could come and work.
Well, perfect on the family business.
Well, it was interesting because there was a bit of pushback that it wasn't, it was a family business, so therefore, would you be better off getting experience elsewhere?
Gosh, she got the best experience anyone could have.
It was
amazing. She had to do everything.
Well, that's when it took off. 2018 was when that was the first year that I felt like we might have something.
And did it slowly snowball, or what way did it build after Fashion Week?
Well, the one of the pivotal moments was the designery in Bushmills.
Tell us about that, because there have been a few people, if you haven't been, you've got to go. Beautiful place with all sorts of wonderful crafters and creators in this one centre.
One space, yeah. So downstairs, 70 Irish makers selling products, the products sold. Upstairs, Maker's House, 3x3 pod, which I thought would be, and we had a potter and we had a milliner and we had a photographer and artists, and I thought that was a good space for Ellen to work from.
Yeah. And
that's all I thought it would be. On the day we opened, which was the 4th of August, we sold 8 bags in one day. And it was...
Are you? Oh, my goodness. And obviously, this is located in Bushmills.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of Well, you've got the Bushmills in there, you've got the distillery, you've got lots of visiting people. Would it be fair to say international Americans coming in with money?
Yeah, well, funny, a lot of Americans at the moment, actually, but at that point, it was really largely Northern Ireland, local people that have supported us. I mean, we'd been on the King's Road, we'd been in Belgravia, we'd been at Fashion Week.
You've done pop-up shops here, there and everywhere.
It's funny, we were going away to try and find the business, but it's actually been built on our doorstep.
But did you need to go away to have the pictures of being away for the people at home to buy?
Possibly. I think we maybe had to build the brand first. I think that people have been incredibly supportive, and we have people now that have 6 and 7 of our bags.
Well, a friend of mine from London, I just told you that. It was quite funny. She didn't know that I knew you, and she said, I'm coming back from London, and there's a handbag with my name on it in this beautiful place in Bushmills, and I haven't quite told my husband that I'm going to buy it yet. And then on the way home, she did she put a bet in the Grand National, and she won. So she was pictured with all this cash going, yes, I can buy my bag and not feel guilty about it. So she's now a proud owner, and I think her sister has a few. So it is that word of mouth thing, and I do think it is that when you actually touch, you've got to touch it, and you go, oh, although you'd nearly be terrified you'd ruin it, but they're very, very wearable and durable.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, they're much, as they say up here, they're much hardier than they look.
So you've moved on from the pod.
Yes.
What have you got now?
So another crazy moment, 2019, downstairs, there were the other part of the same building, credit union had closed, and I saw the space. So I had another crazy moment where I just went, we need that space because we've grown and we need to be on the ground floor, and we've got plans to extend the range. So we now have a studio store, which is part of the same building. We share the entrance with the designery, and as of today, there's actually, including Ellen, who is now paid by the business, which is a moment for lots of people that run businesses.
Massive.
There's 5 of us in the team.
That is incredible. What an achievement. You also must talk a good talk, Karen. You must be quite persuasive just to say, I need that space, please. So, or you've got people who go, sure, Karen, I can do that for you. So you must be well connected.
Really well supported, I think, as well.
That's the word.
Yeah. No, Jane was brilliant. Jane Taggart's chief exec of Enterprise Causeway, and I was like, Jane, can you help, please? Mm-hmm. And so, we rent from them.
But it's such a great attraction now, and the actual shop itself is stunning, and it does give you the space. You mightn't have been found upstairs in the pod maybe if somebody hadn't gone into the designery, but you've got this presence, you've got a shop window.
Totally. And we started the brand with the view that we would be online only.
Yes.
And actually we are 80%, 75-80% of it is through the store now. So we are accidental retailers, big time.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so what happened then during the pandemic? Because obviously bricks and mortar not open.
Yeah. It was interesting. We in 2020, the first lockdown, we sold a little bit online, not a huge amount through that sort of period because we're still largely unknown. But some of our customers were amazing. They just bought from us to support us and literally would send us a message going, yeah, we just thought we'd treat ourselves. Really, really amazing. But once we opened, it was just Ellen and I at that point, and we grew in 2020. And then by the time we got to Christmas and then the second lockdown of 21, we were exhausted, to be honest. So we were, it just gave us time to think about it and work on the business. But again, we grew again in 21. So yeah, it gave us time to pause and reflect and do.
And the ability to realise that you have to adapt and change, actually, and that you can do it.
Yeah.
And you've got both now.
Yeah.
What about the online presence now? How's that going for you?
We're working really hard at it. We've sold to Australia, we've sold to Scandinavia, America. So we've got little pockets, but we're learning. We've just done our values and talked about the business in on the whole, and we're really a work in progress.
You also still stick to that core value of wanting to do good and wanting to have a purpose. And you mentioned there that with every sale, money goes to Glow NI. What is Glow NI?
Glow NI is our, I think it's our 3rd charity partnership, but hopefully the one that we're going to stick with now, run by an amazing woman called Cara Clark. and they're based on the Peace Line in Belfast. And it's all about giving life opportunities to initially women, but it'll branch out. They run courses around confidence and self-esteem. We call it our beautiful purpose. At the core of that was always that you can be whatever you want to be. It just shouldn't matter where you live, how you've been brought up, any of those things. Money shouldn't get in the way. You should just be able to have choice.
And you've always been very passionate about that. I know whenever we first met years ago, you were maybe looking overseas to help people, but then closer to home, you've done an awful lot of work, even up on the North Coast, with maybe girls that didn't get the same opportunities as others.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was, so Women for Women International were the first organisation, and we supported a woman in the Congo, and that was great. But we didn't feel connected. And then we, again, through Bushmills, we came across a group of girls who were calling themselves the Little Divas at that point. So Ellen and I quickly rebranded them. Well, they wanted it, to be fair, but they became Building Me.
That's right.
And yeah, we raised their seed money for them to start their own T-shirt business. And then they sold in the Giant's Causeway shop, and they're still together. And Stella Bolton from the French Rooms, which some people will know up in Bushmills, she still works with them. They just got to a point where they didn't need us to fundraise anymore.
And they are incredible girls, and it always seems a little bit patronising to be talking about them. I've met them a couple of times myself, but for some of those young girls, I think it's maybe shocks people to realise that they really hadn't been very far at all. Some of them had never even left Bushmills, and then to suddenly realise we can make a difference, we can run a business, and then we can put money back into the business and grow this business. There were real opportunities there that this allowed.
Oh, absolutely. And they were fantastic. And the ideas, once that they were unlocked, were phenomenal. And we showed them a film about fast fashion and sustainability. And so they created a sustainable brand. It was also, though, I think when you get involved in those in projects, the give back for us was huge, because Ellen learnt loads. You always learn from other people, regardless of their sort of, experience or knowledge. And
just realising, maybe how fortunate you are, what privilege is, all of those things too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, I think everybody should be helping to grow their own community. So,
and how would you recommend that people go about doing that? Because it seems a great aspiration, but how can you actually do that? How can you start an idea, or how do you get involved? Is it better to go through an organisation that currently exists, or do it yourself?
Well, it's funny, because at the beginning I thought that we would start our own foundation, but I think that the longer you're in business and the more that I've done, there are people out there that have an expertise, then go to the experts. So, I wouldn't have the time or the ability to run the organisation in the way that Cara can. Mm-hmm. So supporting Cara is the right thing for us to do, and then we'll concentrate on building the brand, designing handbags, and creating the income to help her.
Yeah, it's so great that you can help in communities. You touched on fast fashion as well, and sustainability. It's absolutely everything now, and that's something that your handbags do too. I mean, these are really an investment for life.
Yes, yeah, hopefully. I mean, back again when we launched, we were told we were advised, don't worry about sustainability, don't worry about the social good piece. You just need to do what you're doing. But we're very determined that way, and I think we want to be part of that, of a new luxury model. We want to be part of a new system around fashion, but that makes it difficult, because doing things in a way that reduces waste, or doesn't at least add to it, doing things in a way where you've got sustainability at the front of your mind every time, is harder than just going and buying some stock from somewhere, marking it up, selling a bit, putting it on sale, and then going again.
There's research that also shows now that this generation will look for that. They'll actually, go on the website and look down at what you do and what difference you make. And, it's important to people that they know that they're buying a good product with a good purpose and good values.
Absolutely. And I think, so I suppose in some ways for us, we were early. We stuck to our sort of, values. And now we hopefully are well placed, because we've got to do more work now on actually communicating that. We're a little bit, for all our ability to, network and speak to people, and we know lots of people. We're a bit understated ourselves. We don't tend to shout about what we do maybe as much as we are told we should. Even doing things like this, it's not exactly my sort of
It's not,
norm.
Really? You don't? Yeah. Well, thank you for doing this, because I think it's really interesting. Is everybody wants to know how you do things, but sometimes one of the biggest barriers is people, I don't want to have to talk in front of a microphone. Why would people listen to me? But we are so interested in others because we constantly compare. That's why this podcast works.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
You are really busy though. I mean, it's not just that you do one thing. You've mentioned you're part-time chief executive of Causeway Chamber of Commerce, so you're passionate about helping others set up their business. You're passionate about making sure that businesses are represented well in that particular area, that we have enough skills, that we have enough funding, all of those things. And you run your own marketing agency. Do you want to tell us a little about that?
Yeah, so I suppose I call it Hone Insights. I don't obviously listen to my own advice because I don't even have a website. I literally don't. I'm sort of a bit under the radar with it. Basically, I have a small number of clients that I work with, and some of it is marketing, some of it is around their communications, and then it's actually morphed into some coaching as well, mentoring and coaching, and I suppose sharing my experience and knowledge. And it was really because I needed to have a focus and an income, if I'm honest, so that I could grow Taylor Yates. But actually it's now become one of those things that I actually love doing. So it'll always be a bit of both, I think.
What do you get out of helping others, Karen?
I just love seeing people grow. I love seeing people, build their dreams and just, if they can go out, if we can have a conversation and they can, learn a little bit more about themselves, to the point where they've got the confidence to go and, follow their dreams, then that's fantastic.
And do you always work with people that you know, or do you get people coming to you? And, what do you do whenever you think, gosh, I don't know whether that will work, or I need you to change direction? Or I know coaching doesn't work like that because people have to realise that themselves. You can't say, no stop. But when you have so much experience in so many different areas, how do you begin with somebody when they're struggling?
I don't know really. I suppose if it's a specific area, like I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago, and they were like, can I show you my accounts? Can I show you my accounts? And things like that. I'm like, ooh, okay, no. You can show me, but I cannot advise you on that. That is not something. So you do learn to be very...
What are my strengths?
Yeah,
how can I help?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that anybody who is in their own business just has to keep learning all the time. And I would reference a lot of books, but if I can't help them, I would definitely, I've got a network now of people that I can probably refer them to. And
the network's massively important.
Yeah, huge. I actually didn't realise when I came out of Desmond's after Tom was born and joined Russell in the business, even though I'd been here for 15 years, I hadn't worked in Northern Ireland. I'd worked mostly really in London, it felt like, because I was in such a large business. And I don't think I realised I was building a network, but actually that network has been, the lifeblood of the last few years, and of Taylor Yates actually as well.
So how do you get on working with your daughter, a mother-daughter partnership? Are there many partnerships out there, mother-daughter businesses?
I don't know, actually. I haven't really... I don't know. I'm sure there are. I'm sure there's some really successful ones. I think I'm very lucky, ultimately. I think that, the fact that we, most of the time, do get on. Well, we do get on very well, to be fair. We're better at it than we were a few years ago. And it's a constant work in progress, and we're getting better at it.
Mm-hmm. But Ellen's older now as well, so I'm sure those sort of teenage years mightn't have been just as fun.
Just as much
Sorry,
fun.
Ellen, and I'm just speaking from experience. And my mum would probably say the same. Right?
Yeah, no, exactly. No, she's great. I think we generally we now have a bit of a rhythm of the week. We've started to do that now within the business. So we, in terms of what happens on each day and where because I'm a bit chaotic.
Okay, and did she need a bit more structure?
Yeah, absolutely.
And has that been good for you?
Yes.
Right. So what's a typical week? What's a typical...
So Mondays I'm going to be on Taylor Yates, and we'll start with a team meeting. This Monday was one-to-ones as well, so I do one-to-ones once a month with the team. Tuesdays I'm probably going to be in Hone. Wednesdays are a bit of a mix. Thursday's usually Taylor Yates, and then Fridays Ellen and I will be like recap on the week before we go into the next week. Is sort of a rough outline.
And do you base yourself in the shop?
I did, but we're sort of running out of space now.
Okay, with 5 people.
Yeah, so our dining room table in the sunroom has been a constant, before lockdown, and yeah, we need a bigger home now.
Until
actually,
you look to the Causeway Visitor Centre or something like that. Just take that over. Where next?
I know.
Yeah, what is next for Taylor Yates then? Where do you go now?
Well, we've just launched knitwear.
Oh,
yeah,
goodness.
we've just
Is
launched
that one of your beautiful?
It is.
Oh, that's lovely blue knitwear. Gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah, so merino, 100% merino wool. Fine, really, really fine. Again, I think everything we do, we've decided will have that that softness, that touch, that feel that makes, you can wrap yourself in it and you then feel confident and wonderful, So yeah, we just launched knitwear. It's all being handmade in Belfast. So although we haven't been able to get the handbags made here at this stage, they are made here, which is great. We're collaborated with a girl that we found on Instagram, and she's fab, Orla. So we've called it the Orla Collection.
Oh, fab.
We're also doing, at the moment, we're doing a little bit of sort of some hoodies, which is a collaboration with the charity, with Glow. So again, funds to them. But ultimately, there'll be clothing. There'll be a clothing collection.
How exciting.
Down the line.
How exciting. And will you work with designers on that then?
Well, I've just employed, so our 5th person is a graduate from Belfast Met. So currently only 3 days a week, but the plan is that she'll come on board full time, and she has the skills for the patterns and that some of the tech skills that I wouldn't necessarily have. But there's lots to do. I mean, we just need to reach out to decide where we're going to get them made. There's loads to do.
Loads to do, and lots of exciting things to do as well. And what's it like in Bushmills at the moment? Because it's such a happening place, and it feels like it's so vibrant now.
Yeah, it's really it's just a really becoming a really cool little.
Yeah.
I suppose it was always a cool little village, but for a different look. But now, yeah, it's
like a Hillsborough or something.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's I don't know. I think it's becoming a bit of a destination now, I think.
So buy the house now because they're going to rock it, especially whenever Taylor Yates expands as well. But all the restaurants, all the lovely local produce, really nice vibe going on there. Do you get any spare time, Karen? And if so, what do you do?
Yeah, I'm not very good at spare time. I'm looking forward to getting a holiday this year.
Yeah,
that would be really good. I tend to just spend time. I rarely spend time not thinking about the business, to be honest. But I realise I have to be a bit kinder. So we go to the gym a couple of times a week. We have PT. I love staying fit. Just recently started doing some stuff with food, so I'm not eating meat anymore, which has been interesting.
And how have you coped with that?
It's been really good. It's been really, it's just, obviously I'm just at that point in my life where just that change has really worked. So yeah, a bit of travel, fun with friends, nothing particularly. I've never really given myself time to find a hobby.
And do you have an exit strategy? Do you know the age you're going to cut off, or will you ever stop?
Ellen says I'll never stop.
I think she's right.
Yeah, that's her view. I don't have a plan to stop. I think that as long as I'm having fun, that the team are good, that we're growing, that we're doing the right things.
Yeah.
Actually, even before growth, to be honest. No, not really. I just want. I think I probably want a bit more flexibility going forward. So maybe work from Palma every now and again would be quite nice.
No, and you can do that. We've all seen that you can do that. That's been one of the great benefits of lockdown. If you can bring your laptop anywhere in the world, you can work from there. So. Finally, last question. I ask this of all the guests, Karen. The purpose of this podcast is to inspire existing business owners and ambitious entrepreneurs to grow their business by offering insight into the success of businesses such as Taylor Yates. So therefore, what advice would you give to people who may have a business idea but have no idea where to begin, or are unsure as to whether the risk is worth taking?
Good question. I think when I look back, I often underestimated how much research I did. I didn't think I was researching, but I was definitely researching. And when I'm talking to people that are starting their business, some people get quite upset if they've been going for a year or more. And I go, well, you're really still in the market research phase. And they sort of look at me and go, no, but I've got sales. And it's, well, yeah, okay, you have sales, but ultimately you're still learning. And I don't think you ever stop learning. But in Northern Ireland, we're incredibly lucky. We have 2 amazing universities where you can get students that will want a project and will do some research for you. We have networks through, the enterprise agencies through Invest NI. I think there's an awful lot that you can do before to minimise the risk. And so I think actually, I wouldn't probably have said this a few years ago because I probably didn't realise it, but I would definitely spend a lot of time doing some really, really serious research and then testing your market before. And most people that I see at the moment, don't give up the day job straight away.
No, that's great advice too. And you sort of spin a few plates, work very hard and build your business on the side, first of all, if you can.
Yeah,
great advice. So. Karen Yates, thank you so much for joining us. Give a big plug, not to your marketing website because you don't have one, but to Taylor Yates' website if people would like to check out your beautiful products.
TaylorYates.com.
Nice and easy. TaylorYates.com. Thank you so much to Karen Yates for joining me today. Hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Public Eye Podcast, and I'll see you again very soon. This podcast was recorded in Granite Podcast Studio. Interested in starting up your own podcast but don't know how? Granite Podcast Studio can help. Record your podcast in our state-of-the-art studio, which is based in the heart of Newry City. Our studio has cutting-edge and user-friendly technology and can seat up to 4 people. We also provide an editing service for our team using your guidance and editing notes to provide you with a flawless finished product, leaving your listeners wanting more. For more information on how you can get started, visit www.granitepodcaststudio.com.